governors. Morning, Governor of Sokoto State Ahmad Aliyu reverses appointments and major decisions made by former Governor Aminu Tambuwal from March the 19th. We're back at the presidential election petition court today, where the petition of Labour Party and its presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, could not be heard this morning due to ill health of two key staff in the secretariat of the party. Our correspondent Emmanuel Aikele reports that counsel to Mr. Obi and Labour Party, Awakalu, made this known at the resumed hearing of the case. He asked for an adjournment to June the 1st, that's tomorrow, for continuation. The counsels to INEC, Abubakar Mahmood, did not oppose the call for an adjournment, but stated that it should be on record that the party had lost 1 day to call its witnesses. The counsels to Mr. Tinubu and the APC, Wole Olanikbeku and Lateef Fagbemi, also did not oppose the adjournment. The five-man panel of justices, led by Justice Haruna Samani, subsequently adjourned the hearing to June the 1st. The Labour Party had earlier called its first witness, a lawyer, Lawrence Wakete. The party has 49 more witnesses to call, while the PDP is yet to call a witness but has tendered all its exhibits before the court. Mr. Peter Obi and his vice, Dati Baba Ahmed, are present in court. Well, outside the courts now, the past 48 hours or more have been very difficult for a majority of Nigerians trying to get petrol at filling stations across the country. Well, this follows President Bola Tinubu's inauguration speech, where he affirmed that petrol subsidy is gone, an indication that his government will not continue with subsidy after June the 31st phase-out date. The filling stations have since hiked their prices from the official 195 naira per litre to between 250 to 700 naira, while other stations are not even selling the product at all, as long queues cause gridlock on the roads, and that's in spite of NNPC Limited's assurance that it has a month's supply of petrol. And all the Nigerian Labour Congress is set to meet with the government by 2 p.m. today for what it calls a dialogue on the impending removal of fuel subsidy, as confirmed by President Bola Tinubu in his inauguration speech. According to the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Mr. Joe Ajero, the government reached out to the union last night. Mr. Ajero, who had earlier said the union was outraged by the president's pronouncement, says the government should provide alternatives and not leave Nigerians to the vagaries of the market. He was a guest on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily.
Now, even if you remove subsidy, according to them, removal of subsidy has to do with price increase. That is the interpretation they are giving it. They will not tell Nigerians that they are not into production. Any government that is not into production is finished. Now, why are we running around subsidy, what we are going to use to buy a product that is produced in this country? Why are we not into production? Why are people not importing from Nigeria finished product? So I think, the difference is that Labour is saying that this crude is produced in Nigeria, you refine it cheap to Nigerians, accessible and affordable, to all Nigerians here. Government seem to have shown interest in discussion. As of last night, we reached out and we have fixed 2 p.m. today, to commence discussion. There, all these other issues will be discussed, because you can't just say no subsidy and then you are not producing, and you leave us to the vagaries of the market, and then you leave us to people who want to sell the product they bought for 10 naira for maybe 100 naira to maximize profit. So we must find a way, that if there's no gari, we must find out what we're going to eat. Nigerians must converse, we must discuss.
Meanwhile, as Nigerians continue to question the rationale behind the hike in petrol price, in spite of budget provision for subsidy until June the 30th, The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, says it has set up a task force to sanction filling stations selling above the official price of between 195 to 196 naira per litre. But the national spokesperson of the union, Mr. Yakubu Suleiman, who says errant filling stations will be shut down, claims that over 100 stations have since been sanctioned across the country. He was also a guest on Sunrise Daily.
Applauds Mr. President for, having the courage to announce the removal of subsidy. And if we could recall, it is not the President Tinubu that removed subsidy. Even the last government, I think, they only put subsidy to the end of June in their budget. As at yesterday, about more than 100 filling stations has been sanctioned. And I want to assure you, some of them, when we go through their report, they are not real registered independent petroleum marketers, because the real registered independent marketers cannot go against the laws of its association. And I want to assure you, right from yesterday to today and tomorrow, inward, you will see that virtually all the stations now are selling at the appropriate pricing. And I want to assure you and solicit the support of Nigerians.
Well, speaking of sanctions, in Ekiti State, southwest Nigeria, following Governor Biodun Oyebanji's directive that all filling stations across the state should start selling fuel within the approved price or risk being shut down indefinitely, the State Task Force on Petroleum Product and Security Agencies in the state has shut down a filling station in the capital for selling at 600 naira per litre. All eyes are now on other governments to see their response to the hike in prices, which has been described as economic sabotage. This action was carried out in Ekiti State by Israel Adeshoko, who carried out the sealing on behalf of the state government on that filling station in the state capital. Well, Kaduna State in northwest Nigeria is also not left out of the petrol scarcity, as a litre of petrol has increased from 220 naira per litre to 600 naira per litre, while black marketers are taking advantage of the situation to make brisk business at the expense of desperate members of the public who need petrol for their vehicles or businesses. The astronomical increase in the price of petrol is now impacting on the cost of transportation fares and other commodities, even as residents blame the situation on the planned removal of petrol subsidy by the federal government.
In other filling station is 300, 400. I think the cheapest in other places even 450 to 500. So it's really a trying times for everyone right now. It has been a very, very cumbersome time for us to even get fuel. You have to spend hours right now for you to even get into the filling station to buy fuel. We know that for us to have some kind of comfort, there have to be some hardship. But I think the government needs to have some mitigation steps in their coffers, and then they need to communicate to people in due time. So like now, the DPF came here to make sure that they are selling fuel. I think the DPF needs to make more effort towards making sure that all other filling stations that have fuel are selling fuel also, instead of holding the fuel.
It's the first gift that Bola Ahmed Tinubu gave to us yesterday when he said fuel subsidy is gone, without putting cushion effects to what it will follow after the fuel subsidy. I think there's a little bit of hoarding by some people, but since morning, a lot of commuters, some of them Okada riders, myself, have been here waiting to see if we will fuel. But this is where we find ourselves.
We're now joined on the program by Dr. Akangson Oem, who's a doctor of business administration, joins us virtually from Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on the program. I naturally want to ask how the situation is in Akwa Ibom state. It's an oil-producing state, but please tell us, what's the fuel situation there?
Oh, well, there are a lot of fuel queues. Thank you for having me. A lot of fuel queues, and the prices of fuel, the pump prices have gone up. I bought at 500 naira per liter yesterday, and all these, I guess, is as a result of the inaugural speech where it was said that fuel subsidy is gone. I think it's the misinterpretation of that has led to panic buying, and immediately after that, there are lots of fuel queues, and owners of gas stations also increased their pump prices. But I imagine that in the days to come, when this has been corrected, it will go back to the regular pump price.
You know, is there a theory really that explains what is currently playing out? Because subsidy, at least, hasn't been removed officially, judging by the Appropriation Act, which says subsidy will be paid for up until June the 30th. The PIA as well, of course, gives that leeway. But what we're seeing on the ground is quite different. Filling stations hiking the price, not because they have new products, not because they've had to buy, you know, new stock ever since that time, but I don't know, as a result of we're trying to make profit by all means. So is there some sort of theory that explains that? I mean, you're an academic, so you understand these theories well.
Yeah, if you recall, during even the swap of the currency, we also had a difficulty at that time. And my findings show that most independent marketers are buying products by themselves. I understand DPR and all of that were really subsidizing nothing. So they had the liberty to sell at the prices that they bought to make a margin. But this was just a clear situation of people cashing in on it. Of course, they had old products, and that misinterpretation just led everybody to quickly adjust their pumps. It now calls for monitoring and how they are able to enforce regulation of pump prices, because if fuel owners of stations can on their own just overnight just tweak their pump prices and everybody has to buy, no sanctions, nobody's punished for it, and we just say when it's normalized, everybody goes back in the past. What we are used to are DPR and all enforcement officers go around gas stations to see those who may have violated this. Either the gas station is shut down or even fuel will be sold to the public at the regular prices. But clearly, this is a situation of independent marketers capitalizing on that inaugural speech to see what they can make as a very high margin before it is.
You know, what is rather curious is the fact that we have lots of agencies that at least are responsible for maintaining order. First, there's the FCCPC that's meant to protect consumers from, you know, decisions such as this. We have security agencies, because a lot of people have described this as economic sabotage. I recall the DSS at some point had said it was going to wade into this. We've seen states also saying, oh, we can do this. Even Ipman says we have a task force, but what we're seeing on the streets is quite different. So why is it difficult, I mean, if you have some insight, to harmonize all of this and ensure that the right thing is done?
Yeah, once I had to take it upon myself to dig deep to find out why we're having different pump prices at some point. I actually called a very senior officer in DPR, and he confided in me that they were actually short-staffed, that they could not man all the gas stations at the same time. I reported the particular gas station that had exploited people, and they noted and said that they will visit on their own. So one of the challenges they have, I believe, is manpower, because they cannot reach out to all these violating pump stations at the same time as they ought to. And if if they knew that they would be sanctioned instantly or immediately, they would not have done what they have done. And in the past, you are not even allowed to tamper with your meter. You are not the one who should change it. If there was an increase in prices, the regulated authority would go around to ensure that the meter is amended to reflect the current pump price. But now they're doing it arbitrarily on their own. So some gas stations, 500 naira per liter, others even maybe 600. And what would motorists do? I mean, if you don't want to buy, you can drive out. So I think the government should seriously look into this, because it can happen and will happen again, where gas stations and independent marketers can, on their own, arbitrarily increase the prices of products.
I would like to thank you so much for sharing your insight with us. We'll be speaking with Dr. Akingsi OM, who joins us virtually from Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Well, we'll go to break now. And when we return, we're seeing first moves, first major decisions by governors across board, the newly sworn-in ones. Some have reversed appointments. It's quite an intriguing situation playing out at the state level. Plus, 2 PDP senators in the National Assembly have resigned from the party. That's news just in. Stay with us.
Stay connected to the world with Channels TV Podcast and get all the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com, click on podcast, select the program of your choice, and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Tap the expertise you trust. Touch the stories that touch you. Anytime, anywhere.
Well, thank you for staying with us. Newly sworn-in Governor of Sokoto State, Ahmed Aliyu, has directed the reversal of major decisions taken by former Governor Aminu Tambuwal before he left office. Well, this includes all recent appointments into the state civil service made by the outgoing government after March the 19th, and renaming of tertiary institutions in the state, and other appointments related to their governing councils, as well as their relocations with immediate effect. Well, this announcement was made by the press secretary to the governor, Abubakar Bawa, while addressing journalists at the Government House, Sokoto.
His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Sokoto State, Alhaji Dr. Ahmed Aliyu FCN, has directed as follows. 1. That all recent appointments into the state civil service made by the outgoing government after 19th March 2023 are hereby nullified with immediate effect. 2. The renaming of tertiary institutions in the state and other appointments related to their governing councils and their relocations announced recently by the outgoing administration are hereby nullified. All the affected institutions are to revert to their former names and locations. 3. All recent appointments of traditional rulers made by the former governor of Sokoto State, that Honorable Aminu Wazir Tambuwal, are hereby suspended and will be reviewed in due course in the public interest. 4. All local government sole administrators and caretakers committees recently appointed by the immediate past administration are hereby dissolved. The sole administrators are to hand over to the directors of administration of their local governments with immediate effect. 6. All governing boards of parastatals other than statutory boards are hereby dissolved with immediate effect. All land allocations and other related matters made by the outgoing administration in recent weeks are hereby revoked with immediate effect. All recent wasteful and unnecessary auction of government assets are hereby suspended and will be revisited in due course.
Now head over to the nation's capital, where a group, the Tinubu Shetima Support Group, is staging a peaceful protest outside the premises of the Supreme Court in Abuja. throwing support for Tinubu and Shettima regime, the group says the mandate is divine. This is a developing story. As you can see, the protesters dressed, some of them in red and black outfits, bearing various placards saying that the mandate is a divine mandate, and they're describing the success of All Progressives Congress, ABC, as from God. We'll bring you more details as we have them. These are images from just close to the Supreme Court in the nation's capital, Abuja. The protesters in support of Tinubu and Shettima. Let's bring you more on the activities of newly sworn-in state governors. It's some similar scenario playing out in Taraba State, where Governor Abu has dissolved the 16 local government caretaker committee chairmen of the state. In a press statement, he asked that they hand over government properties in their possession to the head of local government administration in their respective councils. Meanwhile, the governor has made his first appointments of chief protocol officer and chief press secretary. They are Yusuf Obandoma and Yusuf Sanda, respectively. He has also approved the appointment of Mr. Jeji Williams as his chief of staff, with Timothy Kataps as his secretary to Taraba state government. And now to the National Assembly. The member representing Pangshin, Kanke Kanam Federal Constituency of Plateau State, Yusuf Gagdi, is insisting that he's still in the race for the position of a Speaker in the House of Representatives for the 10th Assembly. The legislature told journalists in Jos, after dissolving members of a campaign council for his re-election, that it is not fair and proper to ignore the North Central in the choice of the leadership of a Green Chamber. In spite of the APC's decision to zone the speakership position to the Northwest, Mr. Gagdi insists that he is still in the race for the speakership position.
It didn't look like someone that is not in the race for speakership. If there is anybody that is in the race, it's me. And you know, again, if there is anything that warrants me withdrawing, I should have gone public to say, based on this reason and that I will resign. By the way, I had advanced reasons for contesting for the speakership. I have no doubt in my mind that the party and the leader of the party shall address that. Until then, I am in the contest for the speakership of the 10th House of Representatives. Again, at the rate of respecting you, I have told the world that I'm a young man that is 42 years old. We have a president that is above 60, a vice president that will be above 60, that is above 60, a speaker, a senate president definitely will be above 60. If the youth have contributed above 60% to the political process of this country, why do you give us appointment? Why can't you consider one of the young men to be in a strategic position in decision making?
And now to the upper chamber, where two PDP senators, Matthew Urogide from Edo State and Ayo Akinyelure from Ondo, have resigned from the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The notice of their resignations were contained in two separate letters addressed to the Senate President and read during plenary today. Senator Urogide in the letter says his decision to resign is because of what he describes as the inability of the PDP to reconcile the power struggle in the party. Well, let's now bring you some politics story across states. The governor of Zamfara State, Mr. Dauda Lawal, is looking to hit the ground running after making appointments to his cabinet. The governor has appointed Abubakar Nakwada as the secretary to the state government, and he equally appointed Mukhtar Luga as the chief of staff. In another statement issued by the secretary to the state government, the governor approved the appointment of Sharifuddin Jatto as the private secretary, Imran Ahmed as a personal assistant to the governor, as well as other aides. These are some of the appointments of a host of appointments by the new governor of the state. that's the program for this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Looks like it's going to be a busy day, so stay with Channels Television for the latest breaking news on the political scene. I'm Kayode Kikelu. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Millions of people living together in one community, working together in the same trade. We go into their midst, find out how they live and work.
Oh my goodness, food business is not an easy business. I spent more than 35 years for this community.
We tell these stories and how they survive in this economy. Community Report, we tell your story.
From the north to the south, east and west, Network Africa brings you news stories from all around the continent. With wide range in coverage, insights and analysis of special issues, we dissect Africa in its beauty and peculiarities. Network Africa tells the African story from the African perspective. Network Africa, weekdays at 4 p.m.
Just Nigeria cares about the things you care about.
I'm young, I'm a Muslim, I'm Hausa.
With many more perspectives.
I'm a health systems consultant,
project manager,
IT expert.
Whether visiting tech startups, education hubs,
or on the ground,
get informed opinions, trusted analysis.
Cash is an anti-cashless policy.
And most importantly, get to the gist of the news that matters most to you.
Just Nigeria from the BBC and Channels Television every Wednesday at 9 p.m. and online too.
Stay connected to the world with Channels TV Podcast and get all the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com, click on podcast, select the program of your choice, and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Tap the expertise you trust. Touch the stories that touch you. Anytime, anywhere.
Hello, this is where we cut open Nollywood, the complex magic-making machine, and bring into your homes the various aspects of the vibrant movie industry. I am Koyi Shutadi, and this is Nollywood Uncut. Glad you can join us. The 9th edition of the Africa Magic Viewers' Choice Awards, AMVCA, was held in Lagos. Veteran actress Patience Ozokwo took home the Industry Merit Award for her admirable service to the industry. Jade Oshiberu's Brotherhood and Kunle Afolayan's Anikulapo grabbed the multiple awards in different categories. Samuel Perry, otherwise known as Brother Shaggy, bagged the Best Actor in a Comedy, Movie or TV Series, while Bimbo Ademoye beat Funke Akindele to the prize, this time after 5 years, in the Best Actress in Comedy, Movie and TV Series. Best known for playing her emotional roles excellently, Osas Godaro was rewarded with